everyone, and welcome to our work session of April 8th, 2025. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Adam and Susan are here.
Chris Perez, can you lead us for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Right here. Right
Up
here.
here. Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if we could remain standing as we have a moment of silence, remembering all of those who put their lives in danger every day for us, whether it's our first responders, our military, and as we'll learn later, it could be our everyday citizens who go out of their way for other people. Thank you. Amen.
I won't hit it, I promise.
All right. Tommy, I don't know what it is about you, but I keep leaving your proclamation upstairs. Lorraine, could you grab me Tommy's proclamation? I'm sorry. So, Tommy, you have a seat. We're going to go to the next one. And we're just going to make that anticipation a little better. Now that you're retired, I'm sure you don't mind
You
spending.
got a little extra time, yeah.
Right. All right. So we have some certificates today. 2 Fridays ago, we had a fire at Jefferson Village. It was a structure fire, pretty serious actually. Could have done a lot of damage. There was a gentleman trapped in the apartment that was burning. The front door was engulfed in flames. And a quick-thinking gentleman by the name of Chris Perez ran around to the front of the building and saw that the door was engulfed. So Chris, with his full-time job as being a mail carrier at the village, took his mail truck, drove around to the back, and with the help of Ed Hammond, one of the neighbors, Elise Koenig, who knocked on doors trying to get people out and warn them about the fire, and all of the apartments were actually occupied, and Rene Lopez, who has his own landscaping business and works as a landscaper, or does the property there at the condo that was where this happened, went over. Chris climbed on the top of his mail truck onto the porch and helped get the gentleman off, who was in distress and not really reacting very well. And he and Ed were on top, Renee below, helping to get him off the truck, and literally saved their lives. This was quite a big fire. We had at least 5 other firehouses and ambulances respond. There was a lot of mutual aid. When I was there, I think I counted 15 or 16 vehicles, and that wasn't including some of the police that were down below on the road and the fire police that were blocking people off from coming up there. And the fire was very active. Very dangerous situation, and without the quick thinking of Chris, Renee, Elise, and Ed, this could have had a much different outcome for the residents there. And then, of course, with our fire department, Mohegan, I think, was first on scene, and they were able to stop the spread of the fire very quickly, because some of those condos are kind of close. We've had some big winds lately, and that fire could have spread right through to other units. So we have some certificates thanking them. We have one from the town board. We have a certificate of special congressional recognition from Mike Lawler. And we also have from New York State Assemblyman Matt Slater, certificate of merit, for each of our as I'm going to call them, heroes. So let's have a really big round of applause. Now, if I could have Chris, Renee, and Elise come on up front. I don't think Ed was able to make it today. So, and Bob, can you join us up here, Bob? Actually, why don't you come over to the podium? So really, I'd like to take a minute for the three of you to just give me your impression of what happened, what motivated you, what you were thinking at the time, because I think it's important. This is a time where a lot of people run away. A lot of people go the other way when they see danger, and these four people ran towards the danger to help their neighbors. So, ladies first, Elise.
I'm just very grateful and thankful that my friends and neighbors in the affected building all got out safely. Nobody was harmed. It's a real tragedy what happened to them. And I'm just glad I was able to get them out. So.
Chris, introduce yourself too. I'm sorry.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Perez.
Hey, Chris. Woo!
Thank you. It's one of those bittersweet moments, you know, where you just thank God that everyone got out safe and everyone went home to their families. This could have been a different situation, but between the great response of everyone, you know, anyone can sit here and say, hey, I did this or I did that. This was a joint effort from everyone. It was a community effort, you know, and it feels good to be part of that. You know, as a mailman, you know, as a family member, brother, sister, and to a lot of you folks, a son, you know, and I just want to say that I appreciate everyone day in and day out, and this is definitely something that I would do 10 times over. You know, because not on my watch, not on our watch, not on anybody. Because at the end of the day, we should all stick together. You know, love thy neighbor. And it doesn't matter who you are, or, you know. And I just want to say that I'm very lucky to have, you know, these folks here behind me along with Mr. Hammond. Because again, it could have been a different situation. Of course, the police department, great help, and the fire department as well, great help, and everybody did what they were supposed to do. So I'm proud to say that, you know, Yorktown is a family town.
Amen.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Rene Lopez. I'm not there much. I saw him on the top of the truck. I said, I gotta go and help him. You know, and we did it. And see, we have to do again. We do again.
Yes, sir.
There you go.
Yes, sir.
And thank you, everybody. I don't have much to say. He did almost the job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Len.
So I did want to share because I thought it was very impactful. Elise, when I was talking to her, told me that she had a neighbor who, I don't know if she's here tonight, but turning 77 tomorrow. Happy birthday. Tomorrow, right? Yes. That had an operation, and that was a big concern for her. She wanted to make sure that she was able to get her out and make sure she was safe. And as I said, all of the units, there are 4 units, all were occupied. And no one really had an idea of what was happening. So if that had spread, it could have been extremely, extremely dangerous. But we do have our chief safety officer in our town standing to my right, the man who keeps us all safe and sound. Bob, why don't you come up?
Woo!
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
It is really my pleasure to be here this evening to honor. I was thinking it was going to be 4, but I'll take 3. And there was a pretty funny show that was on not too long ago. It was called Everybody Hates Chris, and
Oh my gosh.
I think we're at Everybody Loves Chris tonight. So it really is a nice night. But and what Chris, what he said, it rings true in Yorktown. I mean, that's the way Yorktown rolls. I mean, things like that happen in this community because people aren't afraid to jump in. They're not, not chasing the drama. They're chasing good deeds and trying to help the neighbor. And what you're learning about and what you're seeing tonight, it just exemplifies that. And, I couldn't be prouder as a police chief. When I made my way to the scene, my first two officers that I spoke with, they said, Chief, the mail carrier did a hell of a job, man. He did a hell of a job. And those were the first words out of their mouth. And they even, they said, and a couple other people rallied, to jump in. And that was while the flames were still going. But, what these 4 individuals did, I mean, we always say, if you see something, say something. Well, they saw something and did something, all right? And that, to me, is very, very few people have the opportunity to make an impact like you did in someone else's life or in others' lives. And that's one of the things that we love to do as police officers. I mean, that's the juice that's worth the squeeze for us every day. And we can't thank you enough for being in the right place at the right time, putting yourselves at risk to make things happen. You knocking on doors, that's like Paul Revere. I mean, like, that's phenomenal. So I'd like to read them their awards and hand it to them personally while I'm up here. And we're going to do Elise Koenig first. Elise, can you step up with me, please? For her heroic actions taken at the scene of a structure fire in Jefferson Village on April 28, 2025. During a working structure fire, Ms. Koenig went to each unit, knocked on doors in an attempt to alert occupants of the fire, and it's dated this day of April 2025, signed by my hand, Chief Robert Noble. Elise, thank you so much, and thank you for your bravery and courage. Thank you. Mr. Rene Lopez, can you please join me, please? For his heroic actions taken at the scene of a structure fire in Jefferson Village on April 28th, no, the date's wrong. That's I got to talk to Richie Finn about that. We're going to get you a new one. Mr. Lopez's actions helped save the life of a resident who was trapped in his unit as a result of the fire. Mr. Lopez, along with several others, was able to assist the occupant in exiting the unit by assisting him off the rear deck of the unit and away from the burning structure. Dated this 8th day of April 2025, signed by my hand, Chief Robert Noble. Thank you, Renee. And last but certainly not least, Christopher Perez. For his heroic actions taken at the scene of a structure fire in Jefferson Village on April, I'll get the date right, believe you me. Mr. Perez's quick thinking saved the life of a resident who was trapped in his unit as a result of the fire. Upon realizing that the occupant could not exit using the front door, Mr. Perez quickly utilized his postal vehicle to facilitate a coordinated effort to remove the occupant from a rear deck. Again, thank you so much for your actions, all of you, that day. And Chris, it's an honor to meet you. Thank you, everybody. A lot of the village is out here. You need us, you call us. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Chief.
So I'm not gonna read all the certificates out from today. I will hand them out, but you really have a grateful town, a town board, and even further up the line, a lot of people have heard about this and they were extremely impressed and thankful that these actions were taken. So thank you all.
Thank you.
We'll set up for a photo, if you guys don't mind. And we'll get Ed's his. Guys, why don't you come out for a photo?
Sure.
What would you like me to say?
We're going to bring a center here.
Thank you. You knocked it on the door. Make sure you got hurt. Thank you.
I figure.
No, we appreciate you. No more fires.
That's the island. Has to be, there's a 15-foot
Guys, if I could just say one thing, if I could have everybody's attention.
replaced in 1 week.
You know, heroes, they don't wear capes. They don't have fancy suits. They're ordinary people that run into the fire, literally. Let's give them a big round of applause.
Actually, I do need to correct Sergio. Someone did buy Chris a cape. He was gonna wear it today. Oh, over there?
Yeah, you bought it for him?
He was gonna wear it in today, but I guess he was running a little late.
Just ordinary people doing amazing things, huh?
Yeah, it really is. All right. So if we could just move on to our next presentation, because this one is 30 years in the making. I'm going to come up to the podium. Tommy, why don't you join me? And we have some of our library. Come on up. You too, Kathy.
Hi. Did you guys get a memo that I've just? It's a great color. It's a great color, she said.
How are you? Good.
It's a great
You doing
color.
anything good with your retirement?
No, he's okay. We're okay. Get over here.
All right.
Yes, sir.
So if I could have your attention in the back, I know a lot going on. So I have a proclamation from actually the same day as the fire. This is where I started my morning activities at the library after leaving town hall. So whereas Thomas Galello has faithfully, diligently served the town of Yorktown for 30 years, 17 of which in the building department, and whereas Thomas Galello has dedicated 13 of those years to the maintenance and care of our beloved library, ensuring it remains a safe, clean, and welcoming space for all visitors, and whereas Thomas Galello's exceptional commitment, hard work, and attention to detail has contributed significantly to the town's infrastructure and the library's ongoing success, and whereas Thomas Galello has demonstrated outstanding professionalism, tireless dedication, and a steadfast commitment to the well-being of our community and its facilities, and whereas Thomas Galello's efforts have played an essential role in maintaining the quality and functionality of our public spaces, fostering an environment that encourages learning, growth, and community engagement. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the town of Yorktown hereby honors and expresses its deepest gratitude to Thomas Galello for 30 years of exemplary service and 13 years of remarkable maintenance contributions to our library. Signed by my hand on behalf of the entire town board. You especially don't need to call me Mr. Lackawan now, but you never do. Oh, supervisor. Yeah, no.
I want trying to be professional here.
Well, why start now?
Ah, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Let's get some rock and roll going and,
Yep,
and
that's
make it a party.
It's always on the agenda.
Tommy,
Thank
why
you.
don't you have a couple words.
I just want to say thanks to everybody. It's been mostly a good 30 years. You know, with any other job, you know, you have your days that aren't cool. You know, that just they kind of are a little bit harder. But all in all, I got to say, I was always proud to work for the town. And when I first started working for the town, I was psyched about it. And I never really lost that. Or the whole 30 years I've been working for town of Yorktown, I always had a sense of pride, because I care about the town. Pretty much grew up here, pretty much. I lived up here in the summer until I was about 11. Then
Wow.
my family moved up here, for good, in 71, I believe it was. So, yeah, I'm definitely invested. I still love the town, always will. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to die here. So, and I'm not right here, though, but not right now. Thanks, everyone. I guess it's been a pleasure most of the time, so.
Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you.
And so we just want to, I'm Yvonne Check, I'm the library director, and we just want to really thank Tommy for his total devotion to the library over the last 13 years. Anything that we ever asked, he did with a smile, and including being called in at midnight during a raging storm when motorists were stranded on Route 6 and had no place to go. And I couldn't get to the library because I was flooded out. But Tommy came and opened the building at midnight and stayed with people, strangers, until they could be rescued the next day. So thank you for that and for everything else that you've done. And also, today happens to be National Library Workers' Day, so it's completely appropriate that we honor Tommy today. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
So let me do a quick picture, guys.
Okay.
Yes. Guys, come on around.
Thank you.
We got a center.
Tommy, today turned out to be a pretty cool day. I don't even know where to look. All you really can see from here anyway. Yeah, no, I was like, oh, you're board member one. Yeah, okay.
I'm out there. When I say I'm under a car.
Suck it in, naked. Suck it in.
All right. Sue, Sergio, you guys could make some time later.
Why is it doing this?
All right. All right, so let's get into some discussions. Hill Boulevard drainage piping. Mr. Paganelli.
Yes, sir. This is regarding the drainage 12-inch pipe that is running down the center island on Hill Boulevard. If you'll recall, a few months back, we started digging up this pipe over on Manchester. Pipe comes from Manchester across Lee Boulevard down the center island. Once we started digging, Con Ed had a gas person out there, they had an electric person out there, and they told us we were perfectly okay to start digging. First bucket in the ground, cut power to the village for 5 hours. Okay, so as you can see, right now we have a force main in that island. Nobody knows where it is. The excavation is at least 15 feet deep, which requires, if I'm sure a lot of you recall when we were doing the Patriot Park over here, but the Veterans Park, the width of that trench, and that was a 10-foot deep pipe. So we would be out into the roadway, all right, in order to be able to shelf that so that you can work safely. Now, the problem is, Con Edison assumed there were 2 electric lines in there. When we dug test holes, we found a 3rd line that they were totally unaware of, couldn't tell us whether it was live or not. So that being said, in addition to which Verizon has lines in there. So here's the scope. The scope is reline 809 lineal feet of 18-inch, I'm sorry, I said 12, drainage pipe. Reason for this course of action as opposed to excavating and replacing. Unknown and unlocatable underground utilities. Island is 16 to 17 feet wide at different areas. Current deteriorated pipe is 15 feet deep. Depth of pipe would require a trench 16 feet wide intruding into the roadway. In the trench is a transite sewer force main, which is unlocatable and would require constant shoring to prevent collapse. Road would have to be closed for the safety of town employees and the residents. Traffic disrupted for at least 3 weeks, probably more than that, depending on the weather. Whereas relining would require a couple of days. In addition, the trench would have to continue from the island across Lee Boulevard, requiring Lee Boulevard to be closed, to Manchester. Jefferson Village could lose power again, such as when we just discussed digging on Manchester with Con Ed present. We cut an electric line after being told by Con Ed on site we were nowhere near it. So, and major traffic concerns and road disruptions. So what we're proposing is, for this particular project, we had done this up on Allen Avenue a number of years ago because the pipe went from Allen Avenue all the way down to the bottom, through Midland, through people's yards. They didn't realize they had a pipe there. They built sheds on it. They built walls on it. It was horrendous. These guys did a great job. They're on contract, and I want to do it this way: $142,656. And this is a perfect example of when you guys maintain a healthy fund balance. This is the reason, because we have infrastructure all over town that is in similar shape. Patrick knows we have one up in his neighborhood that's about 400 feet of pipe. That one we'll be able to do ourselves. But that being said, this one I think is just too much interference for the area that it's located in. So I want to do this. I will wait until last year I spent $1.1 million of my fund balance on trucks, okay, that I had accumulated. I'm waiting to find out where I stand this year. I may need some financial help on this one, but once the auditors are done, I'll see where my fund balance lies. Certainly, I'd love to pay for it myself out of our fund balance, but I'm bringing it to your attention because I'm not that confident that I'll have that much money.
So, Dave, cement relining, I got 2 questions. How long does that last? What's the longevity on that?
Your grandchildren will be gone.
Okay. I hope they've lived a wonderful life. And so, and as far as cement relining, when my great grandchildren are around, are you able to repeat the process, or is it like a one-time thing? You could only cement reline once.
You know what, Serge? I don't know the answer.
It's a good
to
question,
that.
right?
But it is a good question. I will find out the answer to that.
Okay. Thank you.
So Dave, I was looking over the numbers, and
well, to give you an idea, I'm sorry to interrupt, but the pipe alone would be $16,000.
right,
Just the pipe.
and then the trench work, the digging, the shoring, the
Shoring,
and then
worse, the transite force
Right.
sewer main.
Well, this got to be cheaper. I mean,
I think once you figure in
think so.
labor, I figured it out. I think we're saving like $18,000, if I'm remembering correctly.
and it's safer, it's
And quick.
less intrusive,
Safer and quicker.
right?
Quick.
Yeah.
Especially for the
So-
residents of Javen,
Yep.
the village.
So I'm
Alright.
just bringing it forward.
And is
So-
this piggybacking off of a?
Yes, this
state-
is on the Onondaga County bid. So we had piggybacked on that bid. I brought the information up to shout out again to our excellent controller's office. I had brought the information up to Janelle when I came and spoke to you today, and she had Sandra jump right on it. And Sandra, before I even left work at 4:30, sent the email saying that, definitely this was piggybackable and we shouldn't have a problem with that.
All right, and I assume it is not on tonight's agenda, though. I don't
No,
recall
because
seeing
I don't know how much money I have.
Right. Okay. Good. So keep me in the loop on where Janelle says you are, and if we need to look at something. I think this is pretty important that we get this.
It's been a
done.
while, and they're tired of looking at that chopped up island.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. So, we could bring it up with the board and see if we could, if you're a little shy, make that happen now.
Thank you.
Just a quick question.
Sure.
While you have that hole open, is there anything that we could do being proactive?
The hole won't be open. It's interesting. That's the avoidance that we're trying to. The idea is we come in, we reline the whole pipe without having to open up that island because of all the unknown utilities in there.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm done.
Anyone else?
Nope. Questions? Nope. Do you mind if I leave?
I do.
Do you? Seriously?
I'm going to miss you, but
I
you know
will.
what?
I'll miss you too. I
Go
do
and
have
a good night.
something later on for an advertisement.
I'm sure we'll handle that.
Okay, thank
without
you.
Thanks, buddy.
Appreciate it.
All right, we have 2258 Sawmill River Road, Ballin, for a new SWIP application. Mr. Rena, how are you?
Hi, Dave.
So tonight I'm representing the Balan family, 2258 Solomon River Road. This is Broad Street over here. Coming in, this is the Spano subdivision. Outlined in red is the property. As you can see, it's a flag lot. It has a zoning variance for frontage. And so there's two parts to this application. One is the stormwater permit, erosion control permit, and tree permit for development of the lot itself. And then you'll notice there's a green line that runs across the back of these properties, and it's an extension of a public sewer from an existing sewer, that manhole that terminates here, across the back of these properties. So not only will my client benefit from the sewer line being extended, but so will these properties here. They'll have access. As a matter of fact, my client has agreed to provide the service connections for each of those.
Nice.
How many houses are there over there, Joe, that'll be connecting?
So there are 4 houses that have the potential to be connected there. As well, the houses on Brookside, which are down here, could connect. It would not be a gravity connection. It would have to be a pump connection if they wanted to connect. So as part of this sewer extension, just get.
So, Joe, that green line, is there an easement for that?
There is an easement, correct. That's
Is there
in
an
place
existing?
already. It's been recorded. My client obtained an easement through all the properties, and the easement will continue across the back of his property up to the next property up. So if it wants to be continued, if those property owners want to continue the sewer, they can continue the sewer. This is the site plan. Here's the driveway coming off of 202. It's the proposed house location. There's no variances required for the house. It meets all the setbacks and all bulk requirements. And for stormwater, we're proposing a rain garden in the rear of the property right here. So the application is for, as I said, an MS4 permit, including tree removals and the installation of the public sewer. So the town, that sewer will be dedicated to the town, so it will be a public sewer.
Great.
So those houses if you're looking at the green line on the left side, those are all gravity fed?
They're
And
all
then
gravity.
The ones that are on the Brookside, they'd have to, if they wanted to connect, they would be pumped.
They would have to pump up,
Okay.
correct.
All right.
That's all I got.
Any questions?
No, I just kind of a side comment. More and more applications have rain gardens as part of the stormwater plan, And I think the town has to start setting up a program to monitor and inspect these rain gardens, let's say a year, 2 years in, because they're initially designed to function to retain water, but there's nothing that would stop a homeowner from just filling it in and doing more lawn or something else. And since it's part of the SWIP, I think it has to be monitored over time. It's nothing to do with your specific application, but this has kind of been a back burner concern of mine for quite some
You
time.
mean like any erosion that might happen with it being filled, or
They might purposely,
standing water that could create? Well, yeah, I mean, this is normal. It's normal that it would get clogged, but doesn't
Well,
that
well-
come with it? Doesn't you have a maintenance
Well,
just like you would have it if you
that's-
had
that-
piping?
That's correct.
Yeah.
All the stormwater permits are required to have a maintenance agreement, that there's a standard form that the town has, and that gets filed with the county
That's what I
clerk's
remember. So
office.
but
it would
there's
work
no,
also
but there's
for-
no mechanism within the town, and this is, it goes way, way beyond this particular
Susan's
application.
just saying
But just to,
I'm just saying,
enforcement.
in general, we have to set up a mechanism that as we have approved more and more of these rain gardens and also on-site, the Coltrack, I'm mispronouncing the word,
Coltex.
the Coltex systems, where the filters have to be maintained, cleaned, and sometimes changed, that we need a system
yeah, or you have a swamp in your backyard.
to
You have a
monitor
swamp in your
that.
backyard,
All
probably
right.
not. So
Since
you
we're
flush
since
it
we're
today.
talking about things that could possibly happen or whatever, or come up during our
During the
comments, can we refer? Can I have a motion to refer this out?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay, good night.
Good night. Sorry we hit your billable hours this week. God.
I'm fine.
All right.
Excuse me.
God bless. Foothill Street rezoning request.
Can I skip one, the next person, because I'm trying to, I just got crashed out on the remote, so if I could.
No problem.
Tea time.
Yep, 1825 to 29 T-Town Road, new SWIP application and tree permit. How are you?
All right, good evening. Ralph Alfonsetti, the engineer for the project. I have it on a thumb drive if you want, or I can just go off the board. It's up to you.
You give the thumb drive to the clerk. She's got some skills like that.
Though I do like the board. I'm
Board
gonna
is
touch
good.
it.
Having the public see what we're talking about helps.
It's important.
Yep, no problem.
So I'm grateful that you brought both.
So I'll jump right in if you don't mind. So this is a single-family lot. It's approximately 7.6 acres. Existing house, existing septic. There's an existing pool with a patio in this area. We're removing the pool and the patio here. And we are constructing it a little bit further away in this area, and we have a proposed tennis court in this area. We've done testing for stormwater mitigation. We have two separate areas, one here and one here. There is a wetland down in this area of the property. We're outside the wetland. We're outside the 100-foot buffer. There is some cut and fill on the property, but we're just about even. We have a net 12 cubic yards of cut, so we're just about even. That's it. I'm here just to answer any questions you guys have.
I'm sorry, did you say how many trees you need a permit for?
It's about 40 trees, 41 trees, I believe is the exact number. They're on this plan, X's in this area.
And that's all within the space of the structure?
Correct. Most of them are for the tennis court. There's only a couple for the pool.
What kind of trees are they?
They range anywhere from, a bunch of maples, birch, locust. I have a list on the existing conditions demo plan.
Have you prepared a tree mitigation plan?
What's that, I'm sorry?
Tree mitigation plan.
There are, there's a landscape architect that does have plantings. I don't have those plans. They are on the thumb drive, actually.
Has it been referred to the tree commission?
That I don't know.
I don't think it's been referred out at all. That's why he's here.
That's why he's here, so we can refer.
Yep. So on that, motion to refer this out.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
How we doing on Foothill Solar back there? Because if I get into this next one, you guys might as well pull out the cots.
Maybe the clerk could volunteer some pictures I submitted, is that possible? Do we have the PDFs we submitted?
Thank you.
Hey, Cap. Can you pull up their pictures he submitted?
For some reason, we can't share on this. It's not,
Well, you can only go one at a time, so try it now and see if you can bring it up.
So how about the Mets?
I was gonna try, you know what, yeah, go ahead for solar.
So yeah, so you know we submitted a proposed local law amending the solar law to prohibit large-scale solar energy systems in all residential districts in town. There are other amendments that we've been talking about for some time, and the next step would be to vote to refer it out and set it down for public hearing.
Now, I know that we were looking at it. I had contacted you about a couple things Susan had. I know there's a little more work to do. But are we comfortable putting it out for referral, getting some changes that we'll be making, as well as I'm sure we're going to get some comments from our different departments.
So I have some questions about it as well, but I'm prepared to move this forward and refer it out. Let's get some comments back. Let's get this out there. Let's get it going. I think if we don't refer it out tonight, I mean we could run this on 2 tracks. We could refer it out, get comments. We could look to see if there's any changes any of us want to make, and then reconvene. But I don't think delaying it another second is worth it.
I agree with that.
We need to get it out.
So I will state that, unfortunately, we didn't get this until late this afternoon. John and Adam had been working on it, bouncing some things back and forth, based on the direction the board wanted to go. So
Don't refer anything out until she gets back.
I won't, Diana. And I don't think we'll get the opportunity before she gets back. So anyway, we did not have the amount of time we'd like to look at it, but the bones of what we are looking for are in there, and we'd like to get the comments. We have the moratorium ending shortly, and I think it would be a waste of everyone's time and effort to do a expansion on the moratorium if we could get the referral and be ready to go for public hearing at the end of next month.
By the time we do an extension on the moratorium and a public hearing for that and do all of that, we could be.
We could be
It's another month.
June, July.
Yeah, forget it. Yeah.
Susan?
All right, as you said, Ed, we did get it late this afternoon, so I had just a chance for a very quick read, and I will be submitting some comments on, the bones are there, as you say, but there are some textual changes that I would like to comment on. I'd also like to ask Adam, if we're not going to have a new law, the moratorium expired March 31st. If we're not going to have a new law for, let's say, another month and a half, so possibly late May might be, the second meeting in May might be the earliest we could schedule a public hearing. Could you just give us the legal status of what happens at the planning board before we enact the new law, since there are 2 applications pending?
Practically, nothing's going to happen. It's obvious where the board is leaning. If there's a lapse in the moratorium, it'll be, a short period of time. It won't have any meaningful impact.
So the planning board will not be able to approve anything in this interim period?
They won't. They won't be able to.
Okay. All right. And the draft law will be put
Online.
online, so people can review and provide their written comments in addition to the agency that it's referred out to.
Just like Diana does every time. So, yep. All right. So can I have a motion to refer out?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
That was actually quicker than you thought, Ed.
Much. I might actually get home to watch Gutfeld tonight. I might even get to watch The Curse of Oak Island.
Tree conservation.
The who, what?
Yeah,
Advisory
Curse of Oak
Commission.
Island. How we doing back there on Foothill?
Do the
All right.
Mets play on the Curse of Oak Island?
They-
No?
The Red Sox used to. All right, so we move on to our Tree Conservation Advisory Commission.
Discussion of the tree inventory.
Come on up, Keith.
Come on up. Here he is. Ooh, I like the hat. Yeah,
How are you,
baby.
Keith?
You're looking good.
And Keith,
Watch the end of the basketball game last
oh my
night?
God! No, I saw like the highlights, but oh my God, what a defensive stop!
The Kango hat,
The
black
whole,
jacket.
The whole night was, you know. you
Back
had
and forth, yeah. They came on.
Starting to look Italian. He
12
got
down.
the T-shirt. If it was a white
Immigrant,
T-shirt, he'd be
yeah.
a cinch.
So let me ask you to first do a shameless plug for your event coming up on April 25th.
April 25th at 4 o'clock, right here at Town Hall.
But submissions must be in by the 18th, all
For
fourth
the-
and fifth graders,
right.
22 by 28? No, 36? Wait.
I'm not
I'm
sure.
not ju-
I'm not sure with the.
Okay,
po-
but what's
that's
happening
for
on the
schools.
25th?
That's not a general public poster
Right.
contest. That's for the schools.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what's happening on the 25th, Keith?
25th is Arbor Day. Now, today, this morning, I met with two guys from the park department at the tree nursery, the town tree nursery, where we dug up a maple tree that was planted there in 2022. So it's been there for 2 growing seasons. And it was planted today on this side of the town hall.
Fantastic.
Okay, so that's a red maple. It's a shade tree. So it'll have plenty of room to grow.
We put a pretty bench underneath there. or
That'll
something?
be our Arbor Day. And it was really cool because when we were done doing it, we were standing by the gate to lock up, and a bluebird landed in one of the trees right
wow.
next to where we had dug up. You know, because there was worm. You know, it's like smelled worms or whatever.
Sure.
So it was kind of like, look at that. You know, you got trees, and you got this beautiful bluebird. And
I grabbed a couple of worms for lunch too. So.
very nice.
So it's great, Keith, and I thank you because and you're going to talk about tree inventory and I'm sure the tree garden and the tree bank and what you do
Yes.
there. I was
Yes.
just out there a few days ago with our puppy. We stopped and took her for a
Oh,
little
good.
walk over there.
Yeah.
And so why don't you get into
Well,
your
you know, I'm really happy that the tree nursery is going to grow these trees and they're going to be planted on town-owned properties, and the whole community will enjoy them, along with the birds, right? So I went through the different articles of the town zoning and the town, things, and it's a lot of very impressive language that gets put into this. So part of the Tree Conservation Advisory Committee under Article 8 is my committee, the Conservation, the Tree Advisory Committee, supposed to advise the town board of what to do with their trees. Okay, so, the first thing that came to mind is it's hard to advise on a subject where you don't know the state of the subject. So what I'm proposing is a street tree inventory, okay? So there's a lot of different kinds. I'm going to give you handouts because some decisions that you have to make. But this is one of the greatest tourist maps. Like when you travel around, don't you always look for this map?
Yeah, that's cool.
So we have our Yorktown map. So this is downtown Yorktown. So what a great place to start a tree inventory, okay? Because you don't want the town to turn into what they call a heat island, right? Where you just have pavement and buildings, right? So this is a good place to start, and also shrub oak, because we lost a lot of street trees already in shrub oak, okay? So I want to provide the board with a Tree City bulletin, all right, fits right in. And then I'll just give a few suggestions.
Thank you.
Some homework.
Thanks, Keith.
Some homework.
Thank you, Keith. There you go. So I highlighted a few things on my copy because
It's pretty straightforward, but the idea is that an inventory is a necessary first step. You know, you got to start someplace. And what we want to do is identify the trees that are already here on Commerce Street, on Veterans Road, like this downtown area. What do we have here? What's the health of them? What size are they? Where can we plant new ones?
That I like. I see it on the map here. Where it's designated as M4, but on page 4, and it says it's planting space and not a tree. So
Yeah.
we'll be identifying those kinds of areas as well, where we could plop a tree in there or something.
Where we can put trees. You know, you cross over 118 onto Underhill Avenue.
Yeah.
And on the left side, it's just lawn. To put a couple of trees there. I was talking to Dave as he was leaving, and he was talking about Hill Boulevard, that area where you have an island in between that's a pretty wide open spot. That's a heat island. Well, you can plant trees almost like the Merritt Parkway, every 40 feet, every 50 feet.
That'd be nice.
You get a tree started, and in our lifetime, your kid's lifetime, you got trees.
Yeah.
You know? So there's definitely places in the town that we can do this, and we can grow the trees at the nursery. Right? So, you know, that's a bonus right there. But there are, if you go to page 3, you got a number of different kinds that you can do. You have specific problem inventory where you're just looking for hazards. You have off-street locations, so that's like parks and golf courses, stuff like that. There's also software that you can get involved with. You know, once the inventory's done, Kim in the Parks Department, when I first broached this has been going on for a couple of years, she was willing to do that. If we got the inventory done, she would enter it into some software where we would know. Then if Dave cuts down a tree's lost because of a storm, that tree gets replaced. You know, so it's a process, and I think my advice as part of the tree commission advisory is that's my advice to the town, is to get started. Once we decide what type of inventory you'd like to do, then I can contact colleagues that are, you know, a bunch of very large companies, and they'll send somebody to do the inventory. So I need to know if it's okay to call them to set that up. You know, we can get started with that and get an idea of what it would cost, you know, to do it. We did apply for a grant 2 years ago. It was denied, but we did apply for it, and that was going to be within the parks, not streets. And it was, you know, we have a lot of parks in the town, but I think Jim picked out a few major ones, and it was only like $10,000. We're not talking about spending everything that we got. I called up the agency that writes grants for the town after talking with Ed, and there's nothing available.
Out there right now, right?
You know, right
So,
now.
so it's so I see here you have the different kinds of inventories. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's about 7. And you're saying that we would target one area and do one of these 7 types of inventories. Obviously, the complete
Correct.
inventory is it says here it's the most expensive,
Yeah.
but it's the most accurate.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong. Right? We would be using money from the tree fund, correct, to pay for this, right?
Yes, yes. You know, that's you know, that was the other part of what the tree bank funds can get used for. So I printed that out, and it's pretty much, you know, for use on town-owned land, for initiatives that conform to and further the intent and findings of the goals of this chapter. The goals of the chapter is to preserve trees and to enhance the property of the town property.
I really like I really like the part I like the most. I mean, I get it. You know, you can identify the trees, how big they are, and where they are, and
But the part I like the most is where we could put more trees. You know, like the
Absolutely.
problem areas.
Yeah.
Not problem areas, but
Well,
you know, bare areas.
We don't know what we have.
Opportunity.
You know, I can't sit here and go, well, out of the 40 trees along Commerce Street, 2 of them died last year. I don't know.
Sure.
You know.
No, we talked about this. This I think we've been tossing around for a few years.
This has been, yes.
Yeah.
It has been.
And I'm glad you're here finally with it.
Yeah.
You know, not you finally, but you know that we're finally looking at it.
Yeah.
I think a more serious look.
So,
do you
you
have
know-
any idea on numbers? I mean,
I think the
what is a
inventory
complete-
itself, well, I'll talk to the arborists that I interview, and I'll tell them that we have $10,000. What can you do? You know, and I'll show them that same map that that downtown Yorktown, Shrub Oak is only one street, you know. And I'm sure that's more than enough.
Keith, I just ask that we reach out to Janelle and let's check the balance in the tree bank, because I know there were a couple projects we were able to get you the shed and
Yeah.
and the tools to maintain, and we did the water work there. So I just want to make sure that we're,
Well, I got a recent printout. There's
Okay,
there's
good.
plenty
How
of-
much, do you have a ballpark of what's?
there's about $120,000.
So there should be
in the
more
tree
than enough to cover, let's say, a $10,000.
It'll be more than enough to cover. I mean,
I think there might have been a couple projects coming in, like a beautification at Halleck's Mills, not Halleck's Mills Park.
yeah, no, we got the Hunter Brook.
Park,
Hunter
thank you.
Brook is going to be the green giant arborvitaes.
Right,
And then,
and you're getting some, I heard.
Yeah, I met with Matt and Jim over there, and we're going to donate, or not donate. We're going to use red osier dogwoods to enhance that. So instead of just being a row of
The green
arborvitae,
giants, yeah.
it'll have some other shrubs involved with that.
Nice.
so that 10. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Do you have a baller for the tree
No,
garden?
we don't.
So
we
like,
don't.
how do you manually dig them up?
to-
Wait until they get like 6 feet, 8 feet.
Well, we like today. We bought these trees in 2022. We planted them, so they
How
were in the
big are
ground.
those?
They were in the ground for 2 years. They were about 1.5 inches in diameter, 10, 12 feet tall, and it took 2 guys maybe half an hour.
Yeah.
You know, to dig them up, burlap them.
Yeah, burlap the whole ball over it.
You have to do the burlap thing. Yeah.
So your 10.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, it just seems that if you're thinking about Shrub Oak and the Heights area, and maybe you'd have to define more the Heights area exactly which streets, if the board is okay with that, to ask Keith to get some informal quotes so we know where we stand and then come back.
I don't know the procedure. You know, I'm advising to do this. I know you have to okay, yes, do this, and then there's another part of it where
We got to pick one of these.
pick
Adam,
one of,
for-
pick
you
one
don't-
of those and then pick the people that are going to do it.
So
Yeah,
my
I-
question to you is that and I don't want to harp on that number 10,000, because whenever you throw numbers out there, they usually end up being things happen. But that number in your mind was what inventory type would that have be? Would that be the complete inventory, periodic, or?
Yeah, was it one area? Good point.
I want the complete inventory so that
Yeah, I agree with you.
when you aren't on the board and I'm not running the committee, the next people that come up can open up a computer, look at a map,
Yep.
and know what's going on.
But your number reflected a complete inventory.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
All right.
think
That's
so.
all I wanted to know.
You know, I go to a lot of tree conferences, and I spoke with one of the people from Davy Tree Service. Right, Davy was the first tree company. They started in England, and then came here, because the big estates in England were the only people that could afford to take care of their trees. So what he said to me was, Keith, call me. I'll come to one of your meetings, and you'll show me what you have in mind. So that doesn't cost anything.
Yeah,
That's
that's
like a free consultation.
Well, I mean, I would say that out of all the types, there are two that start with the word complete, which is what I like.
Yep.
One is periodic and one is continuous. Periodic is they do the inventory and then the next time we want to get it done, they'll update the records. Continuous is a constant update. I mean, I would think I would probably ask the board to look at either the periodic or the continuous, right? What do you think?
I think it would be advantageous to have the guy from Davies come in. I understand they planted Sherwood Forest, so they know what they're doing.
Well, yeah, I think you don't have to choose one or the other. You can do complete for certain areas,
and hybrid,
you know,
for
and
something
then
else,
other
yeah.
areas that are more liable for problems. You might want more continuous.
So, Adam, do we need to
You
go
don't
out
need to
for
redo
a,
Commerce Street continually.
let me just check with Adam. Adam, do we need to go out for an RFP on this?
No, I don't believe so.
No, it's just within course. Could we check with either the planning, and John is here, either John or Dan, that manages our that uses our GPS
GIS.
system. Can all this data be incorporated into the existing GIS systems that both planning and engineering use? And I don't know if building also uses it.
Well,
John?
planning and engineering. I was going to talk to Dan about it.
Yeah,
So-
so in effect, once it's already in the system, the complete, then, as Keith says, it's ongoing when he finds out that a tree died.
Yep.
All it is a simple computer entry, so we can manage it on a continuing basis.
Yeah, well, you can see on that same page 3 has software programs.
Well, that's what the GIS system that the town already has,
Yeah.
and Dan and John would know the capabilities of that system
Yeah.
and what would be involved. The system might have a tree inventory component that we just don't use
Yeah,
at this point.
well, iTools is a software with iPhones.
So,
before I meet with anybody like Davey representative, I'll talk with John and find out what they have.
What they have,
Thanks.
and whether we can use that, yeah.
Certainly, it's better to use, if we already have the software, we don't have to buy the software.
Keith, how comfortable are you? Let's just say we know someone up in Bosse's doing the trees up there, and they have the kids come out with the supervisor. You know, you comfortable with those numbers, or
To a certain extent, I recently cleaned up my shop and I came up with a stack of information, and I went up to Bosse's, and the principal had to escort me to the room. You can't just wander around a school anymore. And I went into John's room, classroom, and I ended up speaking for like 20 minutes about things that I think John was taking the time off or something. But I've been trying to, I invited him again to bring his class to the nursery, to help grow trees. It's a perfect classroom. The problem is to get a bus to bring, this, off-site
So expensive.
is a lot now, because the bus driver sits and waits, like.
How many kids in the class?
It looked like there was about.
There's a lot.
About 20.
There's 20 plus.
So I invited the students individually. Like, Gabe told me where the nursery was, and Yorktown, NY, trees at. Let's go back. trees at YorktownNY.gov.
Yeah.
So I gave the students that email. Yeah.
You're too funny. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
But I think the nursery's only really been there for 2 years. We planted these 7 trees in 2022. So in a very short time, it's already been established. 23, 24 trees are going out into the community.
God
We
bless.
do this kind of street tree inventory. More trees will be going out, and then more trees will be coming in.
Yeah.
They'll be going into the right places too.
That's what we have to identify.
But when you're ready to identify the dead trees, I will
Yeah.
volunteer Carol's services, because she is always telling me where I have to call Dave to cut down a tree that's dead and right away. So she will
Well,
be.
that's part of an inventory, is to,
Yes,
identify
absolutely, you have
not
to.
only the hazards that are here, but the hazards that are coming up. Like,
it's
across the street, you have a poison ivy locust tree.
I was gonna say, you have all those
that's
invasive, yeah.
terrifying. It's like, yeah.
You have beautiful trees. They're covered in invasive
And ivy,
plants and
yeah.
not poison ivy. Yeah.
It's actually one of the biggest mistakes people realize when they say the trees are trees are trees. They don't realize that if you don't have a good forest management plan,
Right.
you end up with something that could really devastate your
Well,
your
that's
tree
what,
inventory.
besides having the tree nursery, I'm trying to give advice, as part of what the committee's supposed to do.
I used to plant like willows or like white birches down in the Marinaker and Rye area where there was just where they used to build pools. There was so much water.
River birch.
Yeah, the river birch ones.
River birch,
But what happened was some people would have Pachysandra,
Yeah.
and they would strangle some of those trees.
Pachysandra,
She doesn't stop for nothing.
Pachysandra, yeah.
She's like, I'm gonna stay here.
That's
and
a
I'm
whole
gonna-"
subject that, my wife is gonna watch this
All right,
tape, so I can't say
we'll
bad
refer it
things
out.
about it.
We'd have to refer out. Keith is going to come back to us with some ideas.
Yeah, I'm gonna contact,
I'll talk to you offline.
somebody to come to the meeting, and, we'll start researching this, and then we'll get it done.
Sounds good. Thanks. Keith.
Thanks, Keith.
All right,
Thank you, bud.
All right, last call.
That's it. It's now or never.
That's all right.
New computer, new software, it just kicks me out. Oh, well. If we could go to the residential, there's one called residential in there, one of the pictures. So what we have is we have a RI-40 zoned piece of property of 16.8 acres, and it's located on Foothill Street. If we can just get up a second.
Kind of like the beach scene there.
Pardon me?
Kind of like the beach scene there.
Yes,
That was
exactly.
nice.
It's going to be very white.
No trees to be cut down.
Yeah.
Plan did you want?
The residential one? It says
Single
residential.
family?
Yeah. That's it. Thanks.
Is there an address on this property, just so I don't have to look it up?
I think it's 301. I'll check it. There we are. Okay. If my eyes were better, I could probably read it off the screen.
There's one right behind you too.
Good. You can zoom to the bottom. I think we have an address on it.
3804?
3804, yeah, that's.
3804, I guess it's fine. So what we did is we did an analysis with the planning board, reviewing, and the town engineer, reviewing a concept of creating a subdivision on the property in compliance with the RI-40, and we achieved a unit count of 7 lots. But as we spoke with the planner and the town engineer, we indicated that, to create this lot, because of some topography, we ended up disturbing large portions of it. On the right-hand side is a approved, that is a DEC has approved a wetland, and that has a buffer around it, which is depicted on that plan. And they just recently approved it, and they did modify the wetlands slightly. But in regards to development plans, we can achieve the 7 lots on the property, utilizing individual septics and a town water supply. If we can go to the multifamily. So in this conversation, it became obvious that maybe there's a better alternative in how to develop this property. The 16.8 acres, again, there's a lot of land, but to develop with single family takes a lot of space, especially for the septics. So we happen to have a sewer main to the right down Foothill Street, which we could bring to the property, and the landowners would pay for a pumping station, which we could install and maintain through an HOA to have sewer on the property. Another issue with the property itself is across the street is a solar farm, which extends to the west quite substantially along the entire frontage of Foothill Street. In fact, when you drive up Foothill now and you look to the west, you'll see a very large openings with all the gray solar panels stretching across the property. So we felt that a better use of this property would be to do a multifamily, and what we proposed was the use of 2-bedroom units, and instead of 7 4-bedroom units for housing, we're proposing 20 2-bedroom units. And what we did is we designed the project where the street frontage only has 8 units, and then there's 12 units on the hillside behind it. So when you drive down the road, you would see basically just those first 8 units. A roadway would extend up at about a 3% grade up behind it, and that would service the project itself.
So are they above each other, or are they side by side, or?
They're on the same elevation, but they're
Elevation,
pushed
yeah.
back on the hillside.
Okay.
The property has a natural.
But side by side units, so it's almost like you're getting like a townhouse feel, but it's individual housing, diverse
Yes,
housing.
that's correct.
And it's on a lot, it's spaced
Yes.
back, so you're not hitting any heights
That's correct.
that encroach anything, and yet
right.
they're private enough to have, so you're going in and it's less, but as you go in, it multiplies.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
So the visual footprint from the street has been greatly minimized. And in fact, we were able to save so much room in terms of disturbances that we have a large planted landscaping in the front, which is about 60 feet deep. And then we'll have our first units are up on with a retaining wall. And then that level plane extends in across to the units in the rear, which are also contained within retaining walls behind the proposed buildings. We also have better stormwater management with this project. We're able to put double treatment. That is, we have a vegetated swale leading to infiltration basins, and both the projects share a common detention basin. Both concepts have that. So we meet all the stormwater management, and what we did is we analyzed both systems, residential and commercial, and gave them to the town engineer to compare. And the better system, that is more efficient in treatment, smaller in size, and is with this multifamily because we're disturbing less land. What happens also is we end up with open space of like 6.82 acres utilizing the multifamily project, because basically we're basically taking it's a clustered concept. We're pushing everything together in one little plateau on the property. So our buffers around the perimeter are now basically measured in hundreds of feet. And that's important because to the east of us, up the hillside, are half-acre zoned projects from 1980s, I guess, or 70s. So they're looking down at us. And so we basically would be planting that whole hillside. So we did all the stormwater management, we did the design work, and if we go to something called comparison, if I may, there's one more
This one,
table there.
frontal elevation, the rear
It's a
elevation.
comparison analysis, and it sort of helps. I put the two side by side to show the advantages of what's taking place here.
These are the units.
Be good. That's the one. That should be. That's it. Perfect. We can get that. Okay. Perfect. So what we did is we created we put both plans side by side to review, and you can see basically the difference in the large residential sprawl on the left-hand side and the tight project on the right. And we also enhanced the plans to show you where we could put planting, and because this is owned by an HOA, most of the multifamily project, 6.5 acres worth, is being extensively planted. And additionally, the white area on the right-hand side is a DEC wetland. We're not touching that, but we do have a permit from DEC to put planting in the buffer. So we're going to plant all that hillside on the right-hand side with the multifamily option, and on the left-hand side, unfortunately, in a residential zone type of project, you create lots and you put street trees along the roadway. But basically, the people pretty much do
Their own design.
what they want to do, which is basically clear the areas for septic access and then let it go from there. So we, with an HOA opportunity in the multifamily, we plan to have an extensive planting program for the project. And that would be planted immediately when we initiate the project.
So when you say there's an HOA, is there any space for common elements outside of just the actual driveway, the front, the lot?
We have room at the end of the project for common elements if we want to put them in there. We have a flat area. We didn't develop, we ended our roadway, as you can see, with the multifamily, with a remaining about 150 feet buffer to the north. But that could have common elements.
Also, they could just be in the land. But and then the other thing is this going to be, the roads are obviously going to be okay for our trucks to go through, or?
It's 100% compliant. One advantage of the multifamily, we have two means of access. We have a roadway going into it. We also have an emergency roadway at the end of it. But you don't need that with a single-family subdivision, and that ends in a cul-de-sac. But with the multifamily, we have two means of access to get into it.
Yeah, I always just think about like hydrants and like garbage and being able to turn around and.
We have all that on the project. It's all established. So we have two means of access to the multifamily. So safety-wise, the multifamily is much better. We're going to bring hydrants onto the property and provide fire service. Again, it's a better option than with a single family. I did a whole list on the left-hand side of all the comparison to show you how it works. And basically, the roadway is shorter with the multifamily. The disturbance is less impervious. There's about 4 acres more of open space. We basically have less disturbance by a half an acre. Our coverages, building coverages are more, but development coverage is less because we're using multifamily. So that's we have 2-story units proposed, and each unit's going to be a 2-bedroom. 2 stories, lower level, family room, and some have a master on the lower level. Some only have 1 bedroom upstairs and an open space 2 below, and some have 2 bedrooms. So we have we mixed and matched everything for people with disabilities, etc. We had to put some units had to have a bedroom on the first floor, and we met all that criteria.
So you're looking anywhere from like 2,500 to.
Our units,
1,800.
our units are about 1,600 square foot plus a optional finished basement.
Yeah, the ones that are
walkouts.
some with basements. Yeah, I see.
And then the small units.
What's the
are
optional?
About 1,400.
What's the optional finished basement?
It's about 1,000 square feet.
1,000 square feet.
How much?
About 1,000. So we have lots of. These are big units, a lot of room, and we're building them into the hillside. So we have that opportunity to create, multiple story uses.
And then there's others that are like 700. With the merch basement.
Yeah, but the 2 stories high as well. So the smaller units again are first floor is 850, second floor is 500.
Yeah, we're just talking about different basement sizes.
Oh yes, yeah, they vary because of where the mechanicals go, etc. And if I could put the architecturals on the plan, if we could try that. So what's the liabilities of this? Well, in an R140 zone, the town would be maintaining the town road. And the town would be maintaining basically the water system because it's individual water provided to individual households. But if we go to an HOA, we'd have our own private pump station. We wouldn't have subsurface sewage disposal projects, development on the property. It'd be all sewered. We could take care of our own water. The HOA could handle fire suppression issues if we needed to for supplemental. We could put a tank in if we needed to, if we had low water problems. We basically have approximately the same septic disbursement rates. One more thing is on the multifamily, we have 9,800 square foot of street buffering, and we have 7,600 above of a buffer area as well. What's happening is the entire project has a big tree buffer along the street line, and it'll be in place. These are the floor plans real quickly, and it just shows that basically is it's first floor, second floor above, and on the right-hand side, those little units are going along the street, and the back of the project, the longer units, that is, the 8-unit buildings are in the rear. And so basically we are staggering how we develop it. Small, minimal units in front and more on the rear. If you kick to the elevations, if it's possible, that'd be great. Thanks.
You're saying those are the benefits of having an HOA?
HOA is a great thing because basically it's being maintained. It's required to be registered by the state of New York, has to be maintained.
Well, until it's not.
Well,
which I
no, but
experienced.
we
Or until they decide to have board approval to have you move in, until they decide they don't like animals, or they don't like children stomping on the ground. I mean,
Yeah, it's
I've lived
true.
in Manhattan, I'm gonna say,
Yeah, yeah, I
HOA is
know.
a scary word, or they decide like, you can't change your railing if it's blue.
An
You get a
HOA
fine.
is an entity that I don't think
Yes.
should have ever been created on the face of the planet.
But I hear the,
We do a lot of them. I do
As
a
long
lot
as
of,
I'm not part of the HOA and I'm not supposed to do it,
Yes, it's,
no, that's true.
everything's
But I've seen them go defunct. I've also seen them not create the diversity that they're intended to create because they'll tack on those extra fees. It's like, and they don't have a reserve fund, so because they don't have a reserve fund, you have assessments that are going out, the bananas. I'm just saying there are different.
right. This is what we have in regards to proposal.
I'm just teasing about the HOA. That would be not my problem, but. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
we've done a lot of them. I've done thousands of
Yeah, yeah,
units
I just-
and projects. Yeah, these are rental HOAs, not ownership
Right,
HOAs.
so so a management company's owning the HOA.
Yes, yes,
That's different than ownership.
yes.
All right, guys, you would have to come to the mic, but we. I
No,
think
but that's a good point.
we-
It's
I
not
was
a
just
rental.
teasing you guys. It was just, don't worry about it.
No, but it's not a purchase owned. It's,
I know.
it's
It's
a
a
rental.
management
it is.
company.
So at that point, there's a bigger pocket behind it.
That's correct.
Just
So the units basically are shown as you above. They are flexible to meet the grading. The grading's between 5% and 6% slope throughout the entire driveway area, and the upper area is what you see in the front of the units, and the lower is what you see in the rear of the units. So along the streetscape, we're going to see the units on the right-hand side, two little buildings of those behind a treescape of like 100 feet width. And then the upper area is what faces each other in the streetscape itself. Now, we built something very similar to this in New Fairfield. I did submit pictures to the planning board. We've already built this. This is not a test subject. This project has been built already, and I've been involved with both of these projects. So it's a tried and true footprint. I could take everyone there if you ever want to see it. But it's the woods at Dunham Pond and Dunham Pond in New Fairfield. It consists of about 100 units we put in 2 segments already. So the system is a tried and true project. It has a good vernacular to it. It's colonial-esque. It would fit good with the neighborhood. And again, it's meant to be fitting into the hillside. And that's the whole intent of it. And when you're done with the project, you would see a streetscape of trees. And then you'd see a roadway extending up into the rear, and then you'd see these units pushed back behind it. The trees can't be removed because they're part of a DEP-approved treatment water course and an infiltration basin, so the homeowners can't go out there and no one can cut the trees down because they're under a DEP criteria for a treatment system. So we made it that way, so there's no changes can take place in the future at all. And we can add amenities. We have room for it, and that's available as well. We got plenty of room. So
you guys.
the basic premise is what's happening here. Well, we're looking for a zone change to allow multifamily in an I-40. We didn't overdevelop the site. We kept it tight and compact, and that's what we're trying to propose before you. And again, it's been built before, no issues really, but again, we did provide the planning board with pictures of the actual units that were
Yeah,
built,
they're beautiful.
and we can have them as well.
Do you want to see that?
Yes.
That's it, I think.
We heard the sales pitch. Now I'm ready for Dr. John to come on up
Yep.
and talk to me a little bit.
Well, my questions
or is
were
it
good.
Dr. Spock? Okay.
I thought I had some good
You
questions.
did have some good questions.
Just want the professional.
Dottore Giovanni.
Dottore.
That's you.
That's it, right?
And I like how the picture of the roof so nothing stays up there. It's good. Those
Good
gutters,
evening.
they
Johnny,
don't
what do we got?
Well, It sounds very good, doesn't it? And I think most projects start out like that. But I would say really the thing that we look at initially on something like this, a request like this, is what does it do to the neighborhood? What does it do to the area? Is it supported by the policy of the town? So I think those are all the initial questions that you really need to ask yourself, whether this requested rezone is proper for that neighborhood and that it makes sense there. I think that's the
I mean, its neighbors
initial.
are really quiet.
It is a quiet neighborhood, and I'm
No,
sure
I meant the neighbors. The solar panels are really quiet.
they are.
Yeah.
They are. That's one good thing about them. They don't make noise.
That's it.
There's others.
I like that.
I just drove down Foothill over here on my computer. It's actually quite lovely. I
Oh,
mean, it's
Go.
even prettier than you know. It's
Well,
just very
it-
nice.
Be careful when you drive it. It's not a road that I think most Yorktown residents go on. It's
The funny thing
it's
about the computer
curvy
is it's nice and smooth on the computer.
well, believe me, it's not. Try it. Try it.
Definitely substandard.
I didn't even hit one pothole when I was driving on the computer right here.
You're
go-
one of the few.
It wasn't too bad.
Take a trip and
So that's
go
the
slow.
initial. Yeah, that's the initial thing to grapple
So,
with.
John, I'm trying to picture. We have Freedom Gardens up on the top, correct?
Yeah.
In between, what do we have?
On our way to Putnam, you're saying about?
Single family.
Just some single family. How big of a gap between the single family and this proposed development?
In terms of distance, it's. I mean, the area is pretty much predominantly single family, and you don't really hit any commercial or multifamily until you get closer to Route 6 and Lexington and that area. So.
Doing something like this, though, I assume it's saving trees. It's definitely knocking down the permeable surface area quite a bit. Level of disturbance, I wasn't able to see the numbers. Did you?
Well, I think he said the amount of disturbance area is about half-acre difference. This would be 1/2 acre less across the 16 acres property. But that's not the only thing to look at. The thing to also look at is the amount of excavation that has to take place as well. And it could turn out that the amount of excavation for this to create the bench and so forth to get the appropriate grading for the homes may take more actual excavation and cutting and so on and so forth. I'm not saying that they have to truck stuff out, but that is also a level of disturbance that I don't think has been talked about. We only just talked about the area.
I mean,
so.
they could probably end up paving their entire driveway if they get some good gravel out of that. Literally, like, there's so much rock there, right?
I'm not aware how much rock is in that area. So.
I know you want to
But
say
if you could
something.
use
Why
it
don't you
for
make a
blacktop.
note on that, and then when
Yeah.
John's done, you
Right.
could
No,
definitely address.
my point is that there's still policy questions here before you get to
Sure.
comparing technical matters. So did a good job of comparing the technical matters. I can't tell you whether I agree with them. I never agree with the project sponsor on the first day. Usually towards the end of the project we come into agreement, but I'm sure that they're close and all this stuff will be looked at if you determine to go forward. So remember the development pattern of the town, just so we all remember, the development of the pattern of the town has been single-family homes, and where you find townhouse style or condo style, those most typically have been done through clustering and flexibility, in which the density remains the same as what you would get through a conventional subdivision.
But
So
that's
it's
so
not that we
interesting.
have R3s plopped all over the place, for instance, Maplebrook and some of the other ones that you might be familiar with. Those are mostly clustering and flexibility developments.
No, I think that's really interesting, and obviously there's a deeper look that has to happen. But last meeting, we were talking about how most people that I speak to are my age had to go to either Somers or Cortland to find mother-daughters because it wasn't in the fabric of what we were building. And I'm not saying I would, like, hopefully my mother's not watching because I don't want her to live next door, but I'm just saying there is this place where there are people that are, we were just talking about 80 years. I'm just saying there's this place where you're right. It might not be our fabric. It might be a direction that we could start going into, but it might not be the exact fabric of what we've been building.
No, for sure. And we all know that there's a housing situation. But again, by way of reminder, with one of the projects that's about to come back in, you will have, once you approve that, if you do, you will have approved in the last year and a half 450 or 60 units. So you're on track to have a population growth that you haven't had in the last 2 censuses, or maybe 3 at this point.
I know. I've only been here
So-
4 years. I feel like take the tree down,
Yeah.
leave the tree.
So it's something. It's
Housing,
something to
no-
understand.
Too much
Yeah,
housing.
it's something to understand and not lose sight of. Not to say that housing isn't needed. Probably is. Our comprehensive plan basically advises that try to place them closer to hamlet areas and closer to the commercial areas. So it's something to think about so that you are making your steps warily and understanding what your next steps after those can and cannot be.
Okay, I have some comments. This is like probably the third presentation I've heard because I've been at the planning board. I think the applicant made a very impressive set of arguments why we should do multifamily instead of single-family homes, and I think he should package it and sell it to lots of the owners of single-family zone properties. Whether it's we have still some R120 and R40s, okay, because you can't dispute your arguments that we're going to create less disturbance, minus that excavation argument that John brought up. So lots and lots of pluses, all right? But I don't know that that's a ration, and you could take that argument and let's apply it, and anybody else can come in tomorrow and use the very same arguments, and then we go to what's in our comprehensive plan and what this town is in setting, say, we're basically single family with certain multifamily districts concentrated in the hamlet areas, and this is certainly not in a hamlet area. But also, I think at the initial presentations, it was made very clear, it's probably on tape, that the reason you're going for multifamily is because the solar farm across the street precludes single-family homes. And let's face it, and that's interesting to factor into one of the reasons we are proposing to change the solar law is because of the impact on residential neighborhoods. There's a relationship. But that's the reason why you're seeking it. It's not that you suddenly want multifamily or that we need the additional housing, because, as John said...
How do you know that?
He said it in the planning board.
Okay,
it's
but
there.
it could be a factor.
He said it. He smiled and
Why
he
not? She
acknowledged
goes-
it.
It could be because it makes the project more valuable, actually, but that's okay.
But he said it, and I'm sure it's there on
I'm
tape.
sure he said it, but it also could be for multiple
Let
reasons.
people finish, please.
Okay, so that's there.
Could be a reason.
Make notes.
I think we have a cluster law that says, yes, it's R140, you could squeeze the units, but the current law says that cluster developments would have to be sewered. I don't know if the town could consider a waiver, on that, so that, because it probably is not cost effective to sewer seven homes. So that's why I'm saying I don't know if the waiver is possible. So you can still use your property for the way it was zoned, but cluster and all of the benefits of less disturbance you could have with a cluster, because that's the whole rationale for cluster. I think that you haven't said anything about Foothill Street, and as Sergio said, it looks great. I was amazed when I went down Foothill Street. From Lexington to Lockwood, it's pretty level. It's narrow but level, no problem. And that's roughly as far as I had ever gone in my 55 years in Yorktown, all right? Until I went down because I wanted to see the solar farm. It wasn't a very comfortable road to go on, right? And I'm glad I went through clear daylight, okay? It is not just narrow, it is hilly, and you get to points where I couldn't feel comfortable seeing what was ahead of me. So I think in terms of additional traffic, I argue 7 homes versus 20, not that much of a difference, but still. And again, the comprehensive plan, and we can read the comprehensive plan any which way we want, but clearly the comprehensive plan considers this for single-family development. So I would consider all of these factors in terms of the town considering the rezoning. And you don't know me, but you know that I support multifamily housing in Yorktown as a general rule. So it's not that I'm against multifamily housing.
And again, I think you're right. We have to do a little bit deeper dive, and it should go to you first.
Did you want to? Did you have a comment you want to make? Yeah.
Yeah, we did do
Then you got to come to the microphone, or the guy in the back starts throwing stuff.
Peter's got it again.
Not the big guy, the little guy who's even worse.
The guy in the back too. He's even extra cranky now because it was his birthday last week.
Okay. So basically,
I got you, buddy.
So basically, Peter Scott representing the applicant. We did a cut and fill analysis. It's on the on our diagram we presented to you. We have a net cut and fill on the multifamily. We ended up with 100 yards left over. That's how tight we did the cut and fill. In regards to the single family, to build the project, we ended up with about 2,000 extra cubic feet, which is about 150 cubic yards. But each house site also has to be excavated, which we didn't include in that. So when you include excavating the houses with the road construction, they're about equal, 17,000 cubic yards each. And we did the math in a 3D modeler, so it's very accurate. And the other thing to answer is, our project is on a flat, where our proposed project is, the road is relatively flat at that one point, but you're right, to the south, basically on the Foothill Street, there is some curvature in there, but again, the traffic reports, ITE, 20 units versus 7 homes. It's the peak is the most 14 versus 20, because multifamily is a different generator than single family. So it's about equal traffic that's being generated. Yeah, my first presentation is when we went to the public hearings about the solar farm, but after we went to see how the solar farm was built, the impression there was no buffering left on Foothill Street when they finished building the solar farm, and so when you drive down Foothill, you're looking at the solar fields off to the south, and that's kind of when we said we were in the midst of doing the single family. It made much more sense to create something as a buffer between the solar farm and the units up on the hill, which are half-acre zoned, older subdivisions up on the hillside. Again, our impression was to put all this buffering on it, and it'd be extremely or heavily buffered. Again, the other project we built of a similar nature, we heavily planted that as well, and we did that about 10 years ago, and it's pretty much a filled-in type of environment, which you'd see here as well. So we gave you a list to look at. We'd be more than happy to address any items that might come up, and we appreciate your time tonight. And whatever we can do to provide studies, etc., we've completed everything that we know of, but if anything else is required, we'd be more than happy to do that.
Well, I say thank you for the presentation. We're probably a little ahead of the curve coming here, but I appreciate us being able to get eyes on it.
Yes.
Knowing what we could follow and look at.
Right.
A lot of the questions John asked are the things that planning will discuss.
Yes.
and go through, and we have our liaison who's always there, who
Yep.
can help us get that information assimilated to everyone. So it looks interesting. And like I said, the sales pitch was good.
Okay.
But we definitely need the deeper delve to kick the tires, open the engine, and pull apart a couple of the camshafts.
Yeah, with the planning board, we've done all the studies that were requested at that point in time. So if the town board would like to see any additional information, we can generate that and run it through planning and then get it to you after they've reviewed it. So we're open to solve,
Your presentation, because Luciana had on her computer, looked like it was pretty thorough, but I'll go through it a little more
Okay,
detail.
if we have any questions.
Have you submitted a formal rezoning application?
Pardon me?
Has a formal application for rezoning been made?
Yes, we did, but then we went to planning and they wanted to review it first for recommendation purposes. So basically, we would, after tonight's meeting, we would then file a formal request on that. We filed it initially a long time ago. Planning said we want to look at it more. And we're kind of in that.
You're kind of in
viewpoint
between
zone.
processes
Yeah.
here,
With-
because
with
normally
John,
the
and with the planning board, we want to. You tell us when you want the application, we'll submit it. We don't want to go too quickly, everyone. We just want to see how we can work it through. Because in the long run, I think you're looking for a recommendation from planning, I believe, to go to the town board.
Well, yeah, the planning board, if the town board gets the application, then we would refer it to the planning board.
Yes.
In other words, for its review. And correct me, would the town board be the lead agency and do seeker for seeker purposes? If it's on the rezoning application? We were for like Toll Brothers and AMS.
Yeah, for rezone, we.
For rezoning, we would be.
Typically, you'd be the lead agency, on that.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to be, but
Yeah.
typically you are. Two ways to do it, I think, which is if you want the planning board to give you a recommendation prior to making this a formal petition, you can do that and ask them for specific information for them to opine on, or just broad brush give it to them. Or you can just go to the petition and then formally refer it, at which point you'll really be entertaining the application.
It would save the applicant some money. If the planning board, if we ask the planning board for its preliminary recommendation, and then let's just say we like it, then we say, go submit the application, pay your money, because it's a few dollars, all right? But if the planning board were to have a negative recommendation or raise a lot of questions, and then this town board said no, because in the past it has happened where the town board has told applicants, no, we're not going to proceed, and save your money. I don't know which way it's going to go, but since you have made so many presentations already in this kind of pre-application stage, maybe we should just continue that way.
They have a lot of work through.
In other municipalities, what we do is we usually go to the plan and get a recommendation, go to town board.
Step up to the microphone, please.
Yes, Peter Scott again. And many other municipalities where we do this, we basically go to planning, get a recommendation, go to town board, because typically they're more technically savvy in evaluating the physical nature of it. And then we can take that input and their recommendation, and we go before you. That works out pretty well in a lot of cases.
And that is pretty much the path I would take.
Okay.
I'm sorry, can you just tell me your name again? I know it, but.
Peter Scott.
My name is Peter Scott.
Peter
Scott.
I'm an engineer and an architect.
Yep.
He just said it.
I thought he said
what's
peers.
I kept hearing him
Yeah,
say
no, I
peers.
know, but I just misunderstood that, so that's why I
He
asked.
said peers.
Okay.
Peter, thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Have a good
gentlemen.
night.
So,
let them go through the planning.
so you want to come back to us, and then we'll expect from the planning board a recommendation or
Yep.
a letter to you. Will do.
Perfect.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, Dottore.
All right.
Next.
All right, we made it through discussions?
We made it through discussions.
We survived.
All right, for personnel, appoint Frank Rendina to the position of sewer maintenance foreman in the sewer department. From the town clerk, adopt a policy for digital records and retention. I'll mention Frank is a promotional position. Adopt a policy for digital records and retention, and thank you for your work on this, Diana. Adopt policy on the release of employee-related information under the Freedom of Information Law, FOIL. So there is a new policy out as well for New York State that any time a town employee's information is foiled, they are notified about it. So it's a very good step in making sure there's transparency and that people understand what's happening, and something that we really want to make sure we take up in the town.
I have some questions on the this next one, so you want to hold that one off, and we'll do it separately.
Sure.
Sensory garden.
From the building department, authorize the supervisor to sign agreement with Labella Associates for professional consulting services. That's all right. Authorize the comptroller to release the remaining balance of $271.69 to Underhill Farms. From the engineering department, authorize comptroller to process the following budget transfer from general fund to engineering for special projects, $21,471.87. And this is maintenance of ponds located at Junior Lake, the police station, the trailway by the Commons. This payment will be reimbursed by East of Hudson through a grant with Westchester County. My favorite type of expenditure, reimbursable. From the finance department, authorize the comptroller to pay Michael Carducci the cash value of unused time. Total amount of payout $37,663.85. And then comptroller authorized to transfer the funds from sewer reserve employee accrued benefits, sewer salaries, sewer longevity, to the sewer lump sum payments. And Mike, good luck. I'm sorry I missed your going away party, and I wish you a tremendous amount of health and good times in your retirement. From the highway department, bid extension for John Deere construction equipment of OEM parts to Jesco Inc. Authorize the town clerk to advertise a bid for replacement of the culvert for the highway department, which is the old Crompond Road culvert. I guess trout spawning season is ending soon. Authorize the town clerk to advertise a bid for Cummins OEM parts for the highway department. From the Justice Court, authorize the supervisor to sign the proposal with Marshall Alarm Systems, Inc. for the installation of security cameras. From Parks and Recreation, authorize the town clerk to advertise a bid for the Brian J. Slavin Aquatic Facility for the removal and installation of new coping. And for those who don't remember, the coping tile has been a problem there that they put patchwork repairs into every year. So we are finally going to get it done right, as Tommy would have said. From the police department, authorize the comptroller to provide Michael Tillestrand with appropriate pay differential for his military service. And that's just the balance as he is on military service, and that's under Military Law 242, Section 5. Authorize members of the Yorktown Police Department, a member, of the Yorktown Police Department to attend a seminar for 5 overnight stays, and that is in Princeton, New Jersey. From the Sewer Department, authorize the supervisor to sign a stormwater control maintenance agreement with Garden Lane Development. Authorize the comptroller to release the erosion control bond money into Panbar Realty, LLC. And can I have a motion on those?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're going to jump back now.
To the Joe Rena.
Authorize the supervisor to sign an agreement with Site Design Consulting PLLC to provide engineering services for a proposed sensory garden. This is the sensory garden at Granite Knolls, the Tom Diana Park at Granite Knolls. And this is to get some engineering studies on what we would need internally, design-wise, for a sensory garden that was approved back in 2021, I believe.
This is just the consulting to go ahead and discuss what can be designed, what can be there, and follow up with the proposals.
Right.
This doesn't actually go into the nitty gritties just yet.
Right, and this money is from a
Grant.
a CREST grant from Senator Harcum.
The issue I have is that what started out in 2021 as a sensory garden has morphed into a sensory garden and a splash pad, and I think we're paying somebody to design something. The splash pad, and I don't even know, this is the first time I've heard the words picnic area, for something that there's no agreement as to exactly what we're going to have there. So if we're spending $14,500 to design something, and then we say, but no, we really don't want a splash pad, we never planned a splash pad, go and change the design. I think what I heard at the rec commission meeting is that there probably will be some additional charges to modify the design, to take away what we don't want, which this town board has never really discussed. This has been what started out as a wonderful idea, a sensory garden, which had a lot of interest and a lot of support, has kind of, nothing's been happening for 3 years, and I have brought this up before, at many meetings. Finally, there has been some additional planning, but the planning is still very amorphous. And I'd like to see what's in the agreement, because I saw this on the agenda today, but I haven't seen the agreement. And I'd like to see the specifics. And if we say we're not going to have a splash pad, because the splash pad has a lot more impact in terms of costs that we don't know about. So why design something if we're not, we should decide, are we going to have a splash pad or are we not going to have a splash pad? And Joe Rena should be asked to design what we actually want.
So as the liaison to the Parks Commission, okay, Joe Rena is going to design what can be proposed, ground up, what could be held there, what would it cost, what the ground can hold. At that point, when we're shown the splash pad or water features that can be put in there, those design aspects would maybe be modified, but they wouldn't change his work, because his work is to see if that land is usable for this vision.
So that'd be like
the infrastructure. Right,
But
water, recycle, those things.
How about Diana had the conversations with Joe last, so if I could punt it to you, Diana.
So, the special committee that Ed made up came to the conclusion that in order for us to move forward with finding out prices and costs of what it would be, we would need some type of engineering plans to know what they can and can't do up there. And that's all that this basically gives. The plan was always to have a water feature there. That was when the board even voted on it, Susan. I'm not going to argue with you. That's a fact. So this is just clarifying that a spray pad might be able to be put in that area. Joe, if they decide they don't want something, or they don't want a picnic area, or they don't want a rainwater harvesting system, then that can all be taken out or changed. And it's only, he said it might be a couple $1,000s to do that. So it depends what differences you want to do up there. But you need a jumping off point. You need a starting area. Otherwise, you can't even get quotes.
Well, the rainwater harvesting system is to save on water, preserve water use, right? Yeah, so I don't think that would be changing.
That would actually, one, it would do two things. One, it would we wouldn't have to do anything with DEP, because it's basically a wash. You're providing a source for that water to go to. So that water would then go into a holding tank,
Right.
and that would come off the spray pad area, go into the holding tank, and that would be used to water the flowers. And that's the
it's
purpose of it.
recycling.
But
Yeah,
if
it's
we
gonna
don't
be-
have if we don't have this spray pad water thing, then we need another source of the water to water the plants.
Well, then the system will be tied into the water main, and then an irrigation system will have to be put in place.
Well,
And there's also discussions for
So
things that are
we-
not
we
water.
looked at all of it.
I think I think from a planning point of view, the town board should decide with consultation. There has to be this initial subcommittee, which has done some good work initially on this plan. That subcommittee, the rec commission, the town board has to decide about this water feature first. And then we say, this is what we want. Now we
this is
have
what
it.
we don't want. I understand.
But that's
we
what
have not
Joe's
had-
doing.
No.
Joe's going to find out.
Designing something that we don't know that
But
we
he's
want.
going to go up there and go, oh, we can't get water there. He's going to come back and tell us we can't get water there.
And doesn't this DASNY
That
grant
might
specify
be
just
an
for the
option.
sensory
It's
garden?
probably not, but it might be an option.
It is
Wait,
for the
you're
sensory
saying
garden, yes.
that the,
Doesn't it have an expiration
the
date?
availability of water to water the
And that would
plants,
be,
which
I
is
believe,
critical,
next year, but we
is
can always ask
dependent,
for
is that water is only gonna come from this splash pad operation? That doesn't make sense.
I'm playing devil's advocate with you, and I'm just telling you that Joe, this is for Joe to look at the infrastructure. And the infrastructure, let's say we need water up there, and we need a certain amount of PSI to get the water to do. And then Joe comes back and goes, we can't do it. We could just, we just have enough water to water the plants. At least, like Diana said, we're starting someplace to get the ball rolling.
It does
That's
say
what this
proposed.
is for.
So
This is to get the
if I
ball
could, If I
rolling.
could just make a
This
comment.
is to see a splash
Okay.
pad. This is to see
It's about the project. It's not just splash pad.
All right, if I could just make a comment, right? So the committee that was put together to look at this is making this recommendation and making this request. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Okay.
And it's coming out of a grant which was
the
given
DASNY grant.
from
No,
Pete Harcum
yeah.
for this project.
I understand that. So I'm ready, I'm prepared to follow the recommendation of the people that we tasked to do this. This is what they're asking for. The difference, if there is going to be a difference, is nominal if Joe Rena has to modify something. I mean, I understand where Susan's coming from as well, but I think I want to follow, my intent is to follow the recommendation from the committee.
And my
I'm prepared to move it forward.
And my understanding, and not my, like, I don't quote me on this, is that parts of the people on the commission have been asked to sit in now, not just the two that are liaison, to get more visuals and more understanding of what is being proposed, which I hope will then lead to some sort of agreement that it could be proposed to us, so we can really say yay or nay, or yay, that looks like it works, or no, that doesn't work, because at this point,
And I'm just going to add that when we had our committee meeting, a member of the commission asked that we go forward and see Joe and do this.
All right.
I have no problem with having Joe design something because, yes, we have to have a design so we can get cost estimates. My concern is exactly what he is going to design, specifically when I see splash pad in there. That to me is the red flag that I'm not happy with.
do you remember the landscape architect drawing that we have?
I've seen it.
I think at this point, Joe's going to bring that to a scale, and then I think the improvisations will come from that, because we don't have, like I said, I've also submitted beautiful flowers that turn into water and they sprinkle water and they're not really a pad, and there's so many other features that can happen, but the resources we have to figure out if we have that, the ability to put
The
sprinklers,
infrastructure.
yeah, junction boxes, lights, all that stuff has to go there. Safety nets. We don't want to. I understand it's got to be fenced in. One of the things that I was just speaking to Diana earlier about was we could texture the inside of the fence so it doesn't look like it's a gate. It's got music on it. It's got pipes on it. Like can be other things. We're not there yet.
So rather than us beat this down, because there is a committee, and we've tasked them with giving us some plans, they've requested to go this way. I have been sitting in non-participatory, but going in, listening, and they are working together, and that's what we want to see. So does anyone want to move this forward?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I'll just be opposed because I haven't seen the agreement.
That's
and I'm
fine.
not happy
I
with the wording.
understand.
I'd also like to make it clear that there should be no groundbreaking for this project until we have a town board approved
Absolutely.
project. All right?
I think that would be a decision of the commission.
No, I
Right,
think
the
that's a
commission
decision.
has to
That's
see
a
it.
decision of the
Commission would
town
decide.
board.
It's a commission decision.
No, the
town
commission
board-
can't go forward to have groundbreaking on a project that the town board hasn't approved.
Well, the town board's going to approve
How
the
about-
financials. The
How
commission's
about
going to approve.
we tackle that as we come along? Because honestly, I don't know how many more years Pete's going to run, and I think it would be important that he be involved. So I want to make sure.
Harcum.
Yeah, Pete Harcum. And
me too, I was
Matt
like,
was involved with this also. So I'd like to make sure that they could get Matt Slater. I'd like to make sure that they could get the thank you and kudos, and that's really what a groundbreaking
They
would
could
be,
come when they're retired.
unless they move.
We
but
can't,
whatever. Look,
can't do a
it's-
groundbreaking for a project we haven't funded.
No, we still have to discuss the maintenance of it and what it's going to cost the
There
taxpayers.
are so many unresolved issues.
So we're past there.
And before you have a motion to adjourn, I have some comments I'd like to make.
Okay. So I said second, and who said?
Go
Oh, you
on,
did that?
Susan.
Sorry. Okay, I missed that.
All right, I'd just like to bring up two topics that I had asked to be on the agenda for tonight, and they're not on the agenda.
Susan,
No.
Susan, it's very inappropriate. I already told you why they weren't on the agenda, and it's inappropriate.
You told me you can respond to my comments and you can explain why you chose not to put it on the agenda. But I want to say something about.
Go ahead, Susan.
Last week, we had a discussion about the creation of the Peekskill O&M Operation and Maintenance District, and it was explained how this would just shift some of the expenses for people who are already paying money. and the need for a resolution to create the district by the May 1st deadline when the assessor has to create the tentative assessment roll, the 2025 assessment roll, which will be used to levy the 2020 taxes. We cannot actually collect the taxes on this new district in 2026 unless we have it on the tentative roll May 1st. There was talk about the need for a resolution to create this. In February and then again in March, I tasked the town attorney what legal steps we needed to create this district, and he said very simply, all we need is a resolution. That's what I asked for last week. It was explained what would be in the resolution. I expected it to be on the board tonight, okay? It's not on tonight. We have one more board meeting in April. The supervisor wrote to me and said, well, I have to speak to bond counsel. I said, our town attorney told me twice, and I sent him the emails that we only needed a resolution. And going on that, I said, let's get the resolution done. Now, I don't know if bond counsel was contacted. I don't know where we stand, but we have one meeting left, unless we want to have a special meeting, okay, to get this done so that Gary can put it into the May 1st assessment roll. I've been working on this for 8 months, and we are down to the wire on this. And I don't want to miss this, which kicks it off for a whole entire year. And that's why I am concerned why the resolution wasn't done today. And if bond counsel suddenly says something contrary to what our town attorney says, then my answer is, let's pass the resolution, and we can always rescind the resolution if bond counsel says, no, you did it the wrong way, because this board has other boards have a record of rescinding resolutions when there have been issues with the resolution. So I don't see any problem with getting the resolution passed, and it can't be done tonight, so it has to be done next week.
So let me address it, Susan, let me address it. Thank you. So first off, the actual date for the new roll is June 1st. He wants stuff by May 1st, but we have till June 1st. So there's a little breathing room. But under the circumstances, because I've actually been working on this for 13 months, because I brought it up in February when I took office, that we still had this outstanding, and we've been trying to get across the finish line. But when we were ready to get there, we started crossing T's and dotting I's. And Diana had some information about the way this was done in the past. Mm-hmm. And there was a conflict in the advice Adam was giving us by his recognition that, hey, maybe we need to look into this a little more. So we did have a conversation with bond counsel today, but Tom, our main bond counsel, is out of the country until Thursday. And he will pick it up again. But once again, we've had this conversation. I try to get the T's crossed, the I's dotted, and do it right. I don't want to be just dangling stuff, pulling it back, dangling stuff, pulling it back. You want to rush to get the taxes. I understand that. I understand we have to look at it. And I have some questions on really the methodology to do the taxing, whether it's off the water usage or if it's off of an O&M tax. So well, that's your opinion. You're 20% of the votes. It's not both, it's how the board votes. There are two options, actually three options, one, the other, or both. And please stop, as we had the conversation earlier, please stop assessing. Now, I, as the supervisor, tasked our attorney with talking to bond counsel, which is my responsibility. And he did with me and with, I think Dan was on that call as well, so we could try to get it right. So please, let us get it right. I've been working on this since I took over in the seat.
Actually, this goes back to 2023 when it was first proposed to create this district. So it's even longer, and you were part of the board that when this was initially proposed in 2023. So this has been a long, long time in coming.
No, it's been even longer because Pat Caparel has a whole file on it.
Yeah.
And it goes way before 23. So, but I wasn't sitting in this seat. There are supposed to be some boundaries between the executive and legislative branch. And sometimes we have trouble seeing those boundaries. And I appreciate it if you let us work the way we need to work. What is your second point, Susan?
First of all, let me just clarify, you made the point about there are different ways to fund this O&M district, the taxes and the water charge. That's something that this board will decide in October, November, when we do
Well,
the.
hopefully before October, November, since the budget is due then. But once
So
again,
that's not the issue. The issue is getting the taxing district created. Can you give me some assurance that we will have a resolution by next week?
honestly, if we do it through the water rate, we don't even need to do it. But I could give you the assurance that by June 1st, if we're moving ahead, we'll be moving ahead, and Gary will know it. We are working on it. We will have the conversation with bond counsel again when Tom is back, and we will get the answer. I'm not going to guarantee that we're going to have an answer that actually works. So let me get the information. I'm not going to be preemptive and say, oh no, this is done. Don't worry about it. Don't take anything for granted in life.
Even if bond counsel says we can do it by a resolution, what I'm hearing from you is you may not do it through this taxing district. You'll do it through the water rates, which is like changing.
No, that's not what you're hearing. I'm talking about different ways.
With all due respect,
Thank you.
no matter what they do, they're going to have to hold a public hearing because you would have to change the code in order to address this situation. So no matter what you do, and this was my point to Ed, is that I believe we need a public hearing and that it should not be done by resolution. And if nothing else, the people that would have to be in that district should be informed.
Oh, that's what I've been saying.
Until we have clarification from bond counsel whether this is a public hearing or not, I would not recommend doing a resolution until then.
Changing the water rates requires public hearing because that's already in the law that which was.
We know
That's
that.
correct, and
believe- I
so
believe
is
she just
the way
said
it's
that.
going.
Section, that's the charge on the water rates, which is different from the taxing district, which is the issue that town attorney said was by resolution, and by resolution you don't need a public hearing. Let's just go beyond
But
that.
let's go back to that because in that local law, which was, I believe, 240.
It's 240.
It
That's the,
states in there that they created a certain district for that O&M to be charged, which was Peekskill Sanitary Sewer. So until you figure out what parcels are in that district that's already been established, how can you do that?
that section 240 creates a chalet district, which is not even a
It
taxing.
created several
it's not
districts,
even
actually.
a taxing district.
created
and-
several
and
districts.
the Shrub Oak district, which is not a taxing.
Until the town board decides to address that by local law, which is a public
Well-
hearing, that's where it has to go.
I will defer to bond counsel and to our town attorney, and
Which is what I think Ed had said initially.
and I'm really
that's
concerned
what
that
we're waiting
this
for.
now gets pushed off until June 1st. The second issue I'd like to bring up is something at the March 4th meeting. This town board passed a resolution for, I think the technical name was Mohegan Mansion or Lake Mohegan Mansions. It's also known as the Fieldstone Manor Development, which is off Strawberry Road. And what the town board did is they adopted a hold harmless agreement because what is it, 6 acres? I can't remember now how many acres is involved. It was supposed to be for the subdivision, by its subdivision approval, had to build pickleball courts and a basketball
Tennis.
court.
It was tennis, 6.8 acres.
6.8 acres. And what happened, the deed, he didn't build it because the subdivision is still in the process of being constructed, but the deed got transferred to the town, and the town took ownership of the property in 2019, and that is not in dispute. There are trucks, trailer trucks, campers, and other commercial vehicles, and private trucks, and some other dumpster-like things and pieces of construction equipment parked on town-owned land. And when this was brought to the board's attention, the board negotiated a liability agreement with for the property. My concern is that, remember several months ago, there was a concern about the trucks that were being parked along the right-of-way on Route 6, the state right-of-way by Par 3, and we passed a resolution? I think we passed, and we got those trucks out of the way. Well, now we have trailer trucks parked on town property. I have no idea how they got there, whether somebody is paying rent to be there or whatever. But I think I would like this clarified about the use of town property, 6.45 acres, that is being used for parking commercial vehicles. We are covered by liability now, thanks to the work of the town attorney who negotiated this agreement. But I think the town board has to discuss this because it could be a while until the recreation facilities get built. And that's a concern that I have, and I'd like the town board to discuss this to see what we should do. If we want to allow these trucks to continue being parked there, I have no problem with it. They're not visible from the street. They're not an eyesore. They're not creating a public nuisance. But they're using town property, and maybe we should get a few dollars just for the use of that.
I believe this was already discussed amongst us, and I believe we left it to the town attorney to work out an agreement, and we're waiting for him to get back to us.
And things
so
were
the fact
proposed.
that hold on one second. So the fact that you're like alluding to some kind of like we're ignoring it or something like that, it's not accurate. We've actually had the discussion, and we all agreed that we were going to let the town attorney speak to their attorney regarding this exact matter. It's not. It doesn't even vary from what you just said. It's exactly what you just said. Instead, you left out the part where we already had this discussion, and that with the town attorney is in active communication with their attorney.
Well, if
Do you remember that? No, I'm sorry. Hold on. Do you remember that conversation?
Oh, it's
because you failed to mention that conversation in your diatribe right now,
and
I'm wondering why.
And it's because some of that was in executive session, and I did this in executive session, and frankly, the executive session finally led to the liability agreement, but there's
You
been
brought it up, and within
but
3
there's been
days,
no
in
progress,
3 days,
and so
Adam got us insurance. We're covered liability-wise
we brought
because
it
we were
That's
all
right.
we were all very, very, very concerned about the liability.
that's
That's
right.
taken care of. Step 2 of that was Adam's working with their lawyer and working out an agreement. You even said if it takes 20, 30 days, you're fine with it. So it's not. It hasn't been 30 days.
We also recognize that something happened in the past that deeded it to the owner. Therefore, we were giving him some courtesy because at this point he might have believed that it was his property. Yes, because he didn't know this was filed. This was filed because something happened. So we were having a discussion.
He
All right.
signed.
Su-
he
Susan-
signed these.
Susan, if I may.
Then let the town attorney say what the status of his
if I may, you used the example of the tractor trailers over on Route 6, which is a totally different situation. The trailers were an eyesore, a nuisance. Fire trucks couldn't get up and down if there was a car fire in there, and they were parking there in what's considered a park and ride, which is not meant for multiple day and overnight parking. It's made for commuting parking. We knocked on doors when there were drivers there, asked them to move them. They didn't. We changed the law. That was not a code, that was the law. We did a public hearing, and we eliminated that and have it as a ticketing or tow-away type of zone at this point. You pointed out a very good point about the fact that these other vehicles are not a public nuisance. They're not in view. They're not in anything. And the fact of whether the deed, quote unquote, counted as signed or not, is something where it probably does. But the expectation, when the paperwork was signed, it was filed away. It was actually signed when Michael Grace was still in office. It was filed with the attorney to be submitted at the closing of the property, at the end of the property. What ended up happening, unfortunately, that attorney was Al Capolini, who passed away in 2018. And in 2019, while his wife was gathering up papers and passing everything over to the attorneys who took over for him, she came across it and said, "Oh, Al must have forgotten to file this," and filed it. So, yes, it counts. There was clearly a misunderstanding on if this was supposed to be done or not by the applicant, and I would rather not just take a stick and beat the money out of them. I would rather have our attorneys and his attorney talk it out and finish it. I don't know if he is receiving any rent. I've asked the question. He told me the vehicles were either personal vehicles or his uncle's vehicles, who owned a business that closed, a Red Bull business. So, you know what, I could understand if he's making money on it, we should wet our beaks. But he's saying no, but that still doesn't mean there shouldn't be some type of compensation towards the town. I would much rather be civil, let them finish working it out. I ask Adam about this constantly. It's going back and forth. Maybe his attorney's stalling, maybe not. I know they wanted to talk to the planning board based on recommendations from the Rec Commission going back to 2020 on how they did not want that property, and they didn't want extra courts to fix in 10 years at $100,000 or $150,000. So there are a lot of balls juggling in here. And once again, can we please cross our T's, dot our I's? If there's a fee to be paid, it could be paid on the back end. There's still a project going on. There's still COs that need to be received. We're in the driver's seat. We're not gonna let it fade away.
All right, you've brought up two very different issues. One, the history of how the deed got transferred prematurely is irrelevant to the issue I'm raising, because we're now dealing with town-owned property. The history of Al Capolini has nothing to do with it. The issue with the Parks Department, with the recreation fee, is again a totally separate issue. All right, and that's up to the developer if he wants to go before the planning board and say, I would like to amend my subdivision plan because there's some concern among certainly the Recreation Commission. I don't know how the town board feels about it, as to whether we still want those pickle. I think at one point it was tennis and then pickleball.
It's
in the
tennis.
10 years
Tennis and basketball.
Has
Whether
taken
it's
over.
tennis or
But
pickleball,
that's
it's
an
irrelevant.
issue. That's irrelevant. That's irrelevant. But as you say, if the owner, if the prior owner is now renting out those parking spaces and earning money from collecting money to park on land that he doesn't even own, then maybe that's an issue that this town board should consider. And I'm not saying whether it should be $1 a month or $100 a month. And negotiations are certainly closed session items. The issue I'm bringing up is, let's get this resolved, and it's been going on for, I would say, at least 2 months, if not more, from when I first raised the issue. And if you look at the photos that I have sent this board, these can't possibly all be vehicles that are the family, from members of the family. All right. So I'd like a sense of this board directing the town attorney whether
Susan,
this
did
board.
you listen to anything I just said?
We have
No.
I'm dead serious right now. Did you listen to any of the comments?
Yes, to bring this to a resolution.
What do you think? What Adam, do me a favor, dilly dally as long as you can. That's not what I said. I asked him to.
No,
Susan,
you asked, no.
Susan, we are negotiating
and
it.
nothing is, and nothing,
We
and
are
nothing is happening.
We are negotiating it, Susan. We will get anything that's due. I know that you want to take whatever you can for the town, and it's admirable because it takes it off our taxpayers. But there's a limit, and I would like the attorney to finish the negotiation. We could be civil about it. We don't have to be with an iron fist beating people down.
I have no intention to beat him down, and I'm
that's what
not
it sounds
quibbling
like.
over the amount of money. I'm just saying that I'd like the board to direct the attorney.
Thank you.
Okay,
All
to
right.
negotiate
All
something
right.
that is.
All right, I'm sorry. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
He's right behind you. Hi, Adam.
Motion.
Haven't.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night, Yorktown.
Oh my God.